Hello, my name is John Gabriel. I'm an interviewer for the Public Library of Hamilton County in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm here today interviewing Ephraim Roth at the Public Library in Cincinnati, Ohio, downtown. It's October 16th, 2012. Our camera operator today is Brian Powers. Welcome, Mr. Roth.
Thank you.
Glad to have this opportunity to talk with you. Let's start off with a few questions about where you grew up.
I was born and raised, I was born on July 7th, 1918, right here in Cincinnati. My family has been here a little over 120 years, so we have some deep roots here in Cincinnati.
What part of town did you grow up in?
Well, first it was downtown, then the family moved to Price Hill, then to Avondale, and now I ended up in Amberley Village, where I am now.
Okay. Where downtown did you live?
It was West 6th Street.
Son
I don't
of
know
a
the
gun.
number, yes.
West 6th Street.
Yeah.
Is the I
I
assume
was
that
born in a hotel, in a hospital. I think it was a Seton. It was a Catholic hospital, the Seton Hospital, as I was told. I don't remember.
right.
That's
I
what was
imagine the home you lived in is long gone.
Oh yes.
Yeah, West
Long
6th
gone.
Street today is much newer construction
Oh,
than
doesn't look like the same city.
yes. Oh, that's interesting. You went to high school here in Cincinnati?
Hughes High School.
Hughes High School.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how you came to know about the war and find yourself entered into the war.
Well, of course, in those days, I mean, everybody knew about the war because we were all involved in it, even as civilians, you know.
Yeah.
So when it came time to go, I was lucky enough to get into the Navy. This is what I wanted. And that's where I ended in May of 43 is when I...
Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted. Uh-huh.
Do you remember where you were? This is sort of a popular question among the interviewers because sometimes it results in an interesting story. When you found out about the bombing of Pearl Harbor, do you remember where you were?
Remember exactly where I was. I had been in the country with my grandfather. He used to deal in antiques, and he had a pickup truck, and he'd go out in the country, and some of these people, and they'd open up their old barns, and they'd have some old furniture he'd pick up. We were driving back home, and I still remember going up Reading Road, and there was somebody hawking a post, and I thought, wait a minute, what's the post on a Sunday? And I saw a Pearl Harbor bomb.
Huh.
Well, I didn't know where Pearl Harbor was, as did most of us at the time. It's hard to believe now. That's part of our history. Everybody knows about Pearl Harbor. That's where I first found out about it.
I see. How old were you then?
Let's see. I would have been 22.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
20. Did you have a job at the time?
20. Yes, I did. Uh-huh.
What were you working on?
It was a millinery factory here.
Oh.
You know, years ago, millinery was big. All the women wore hats.
Yeah.
This was a female millinery. And they had a hat factory here. And every suburb had their millinery, just like they had a grocery store and a drugstore and so forth and so on. They had a hat store for the ladies.
I'll be
So it
darned.
was big in those days. It was a big business.
Where was the factory?
It was at Central Parkway and Reading Road at that triangle. It's not the same now, but that's where it was.
I'll be darned. Yeah, I know right where that corner is. Interesting. All right, so you found out about Pearl Harbor. When did you enlist?
It was in May 1943.
Okay. Where'd they send you?
Went to near Chicago. The boot camp was called Green Bay.
Green Bay.
It was right out of Chicago somewhere, yeah.
What did they train you to do up there?
March, did some training with pistols and rifles and how to clean up your barracks and things like that.
Were the drill instructors tough on you?
Yeah, they were hard on you. Yeah, they were meant to be, you know.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you're entering a new phase, and you know the military is nothing. It's not a picnic, you know. So they did their job.
Okay. Good. That took place in May of 1943, you say. Then
Yes.
from after you got out of boot camp, or did they call it boot camp or basic training or
Yes, boot camp in the Navy, yeah.
boot camp in
Yeah.
the Navy? Where did they send you from there?
Well, I was lucky enough to, on my test, to be able to select pretty much, I went to a school, a storekeeping school. And,
Excuse me, what's
a storekeeper.
okay?
Well, that's a rank that, well, actually what I did, I requisitioned all material for the ship, and even sometimes a commissary, you know, and everything but weapons, but everything else. It was my job to requisition and to keep track of it,
I see.
pretty much.
Where did that training take
So I
place?
had a desk job. It was pretty nice.
Good.
I mean, when we weren't at battle, I had a nice job. Let's put it that way.
Where was that training taking place?
That was in Toledo, Ohio, believe it or not.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah. The way they had it, there was some kind of facility, Coast Guard or something up there. I forget, Bayview Park, I don't know. Anyway, it was Toledo.
What was your rank at that point?
Well, that time I was an apprentice seaman.
I see. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
How long were you
Well,
there?
then first class seaman. Yeah, yeah. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, if I'm interrupting you, I'm in the wrong because this is your time. How long were you in Toledo?
That was a 16-week course. He taught us, it was very comprehensive, and even learned to type there, you know, which was essential for that part of the job. And yeah.
Did you have any free time while you had your training there?
Well, yes. When I went in, I was married and I had a baby.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
When I left that morning to go away, I kissed my wife and my baby goodbye. So they came up there, knowing I would be there that long, and I would get Wednesday evening and weekends to spend with them while I was at the school.
I see. Did they have a place for them to stay?
Yeah, we stayed in, found somebody's house, family, very nice family, very hospitable, and worked out very well.
How old was your baby at the time?
Well, she had been born September of 42, so she would have been, what, about 9 months old, something like that.
So she was a little one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
All right. So after your 16 weeks in Toledo, where did they send you?
They sent me aboard a ship at Norfolk, and it was a mine layer. They had just come back from a North African campaign, and so we stayed around there for a while. It was a mine layer. This ship, well, there was only three kind in the world, as I understand. These three ships were fitted up to, they carried rail cars from Havana to Key West, and they had the rails, narrow gauge rails, and it was perfect for the mine, and they had a cut off at the, I wish I had a picture of it, it's hard to explain, at the fantail to roll them right off. They had 4 rows of mines that we reached to roll up. So we laid the mines in Chesapeake Bay, so they find out they got a job for us now, and we're ready to go out to the Pacific, where all the action was, you know.
I see. Well,
So we did
what was the name of the ship?
USS Salem.
USS Salem.
CM-11, means converted mine layer.
How long was it? Big ship, small ship?
Well, there was 300 personnel, 300 people.
Wow.
It was not a big ship. It was not as big as ships go, you know. I think it was 350 feet long. I'm not sure.
Was it armed with anything more than just mine laying capability? Did it have guns on it to help protect
sure.
it?
Oh, we were going out to a war. Oh, yeah, we had guns. We had 20 millimeters and 40 millimeters, and yeah, plenty of them. I mean, we're not a major ship. We were a minor ship.
Okay.
So when we went out there, they had to find things for us to do until we actually went into battle. So they sent us to different islands. Something interesting, I went to one of the first islands we stopped at. Our men had already taken it from the Japanese, called Kwajalein. And when we got there, we stopped there, and they let us off, and they gave us a couple of cans of beers, each one, because you can't consume it on the ship. So they went on the island. There was nothing there. I mean, all the trees, there was stumps of trees, nothing left. It was only about a mile long, a small island. The reason I'm mentioning this, that in and of itself is not important. 35 years later, my brother-in-law, who was in the missiles, and remember the Reagan Star Wars, he's in all that, and he sends satellites up and all that. He just retired. He came in Cincinnati, visited his sister, he lived in California. He said, I just came back from Kwajalein. What are you talking about, Kwajalein? You mean in the Pacific? He says, yeah. I said, there's nothing there. There's sand and dirt. He says, no, he says, we have a modern missile base there now.
No kidding.
Yes. They brought me a T-shirt. Then they have, which I wanted to show it to you. Yeah, it's they have a runway and it's a modern missile base right there. I had no idea. It's odd that here my brother-in-law, 35 years later, the same island that first one we stopped at. But anyway, they had to find things for us to do. They sent us down to Macon Island. Macon Island is the island where they made years ago a movie called Gung Ho with Randolph Scott. And what we did, they had to find things. We're an auxiliary ship. We're not a capital ship like a battleship or aircraft, nothing like that. So they find things for us to do. We picked up thousands of cases of dynamite there to take to Tinian. I don't know if you heard of Tinian or Saipan. Sure. Yes, okay. Because they used that they built the longest runway at that time in the world for our super bombers to take off for Japan. When we got to Tinian, got there late in the afternoon, and it was very windy. It was a storm brewing or something, and we weighed anchor, but it kept dragging us towards the coral reef. And we kept getting closer and closer. You know what? And one of the first lieutenant officer, anyway, used to come in. I was in the supply office where my station was. And he talked to the supply officer and me, and there was another storekeeper there. He said, I don't know what's happened to the skipper. He says, he says, if he doesn't pull anchor, pull out further out to sea, we're going to land up on that coral reef. Make a long story short, that's exactly what did at the stroke of midnight. It's like a story. You're right, it's the stroke of midnight. We landed on that coral reef, the back part, and we didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, it was scary. I saw a couple of sailors get on their knees and pray. We didn't know what. And we were sitting there. Now, the front part of the boat was, of course, out towards the water. We talked about if we have to abandon, what we're going to do to swim around, way around, so we escape the coral reef, because it'll tear you to ribbons, it's very sharp. But we landed there, and we were there overnight, and it tore up. We had two propellers, two screws we call them, and it ruined them both. So we unloaded the dynamite, and we were then towed to Pearl Harbor to be repaired.
Oh my goodness.
It took 21 days. You got two tugs. One was an Army tug. We didn't know the Army had tugs. Believe it or not. One was a Navy tug, one was an Army tug. I don't know how they got the Army tug. But anyway, they towed us to Pearl Harbor. And when we got to Pearl Harbor, and of course we had to repair us, at the same time what they did, they changed us from a mine layer to a net layer. These big anti-submarine nets, there's rings, there's big rings. I don't know if you recall what I'm talking about. They're interlocking rings.
Yes.
Big rings, to prevent submarines from coming. And, they put it in the harbor. They laid the nets, and they had net tenders. You may have heard net tenders, and they would open the gates. So that's what happened there. And anything else to report there?
Well, let me ask you. At this point, you've gone from Kwajalein to Macon to Tinian and to Pearl Harbor.
Marshall Islands, the Gilbert Islands, down. Yes, right.
That's a lot of ocean going. Did you see any of the enemy at this point, or any contact with submarines, or or anything?
Oh,
like
we had
this?
some submarine scares.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, and then we saw that we always were in the escort, and the destroyers, at that time, I don't know how they do it today, they had what we called ash cans, like old tin garbage cans. They throw over, if they spot a submarine, and it would explode down there, and if they hit anything, they would see the debris coming up, they know they, hit a submarine. So we saw some of that, yes. Oh, there was always submarine scares. But so far, no action until we got through Saipan. Saw a little action there.
What happened there?
Well, they'd already taken the island, but there was some, every once in a while there'd be a Zero, one of the Jap planes would come by, But by that time, when we got there, it was pretty well contained,
Yes.
And so,
Did you have?
when we, go ahead.
I was going to ask, when that happened, did you have a battle station you had to report to?
Oh, everybody has a battle station. I was an anti-aircraft gunner. Pictures there. Did you see it?
I'm leading toward that. Yes.
Yes.
Tell us what you had to do when they rang the call for all hands on deck or whatever.
Yeah.
they
Well, at all times, even when you're in a quote safe area, all times you had at least 1/3 of your guns manned at all times, and well, I went to gunnery school to learn,
Oh.
Oh, I left that part out for a while. That was Pearl Harbor. When we got to Pearl Harbor, we stopped at Pearl Harbor before we went on to the Gilbert Islands and Warsaw and all those.
Okay.
But so they changed it to and well, what happened is that we were set to go to Okinawa, and that's what was our next stop, was Okinawa. So we got there, and before we took the main island, we took another island called Karamaretta, and we were there, and we were there for the invasion of that island. And we saw all the Zeros and the kamikazes.
Really?
Oh, yeah. One night I saw 3 of our ships hit and went down within 10 minutes.
Wow.
I mean, they did right in. We were lucky because they didn't go after a ship like ours. They were after the aircraft carriers, the battleships, the cruisers,
Yes.
the destroyers, something like that. Mainly the aircraft carriers. So anyway, we got that secured, that island. And we felt pretty safe getting ready for the big island. So what we did, we laid the nets, and that was the reason we were there. We laid the nets in that Karamaretta Island, and you'd come around and you lay maybe 100 yards of it, and then you swing around, and you come around and reach that point and lock them together, and then there'd be gates that you'd go in and out. Now, there was an aircraft carrier that was in the harbor there that would go out at night on patrol. Looking for whatever, Jap planes, whatever. They would come in the morning, and they'd sleep for the rest of the day, and it was supposedly safe there, The gate tenders, they would open the gate, let them in, then close them, And this one morning, we were feeling safe. We had, just, as I say, 1/3 of our guns manned. And I was at breakfast, and what General Quarters sounded, everybody run it up, When I got right to the top of the deck, ready to go to my station, my gun, right overhead was this Jap plane with that red ball underneath, and he headed for a low-hanging cloud, and he was coming out of it. He was ready for that aircraft carrier. They did not have their guns manned.
Oh my goodness.
They were not ready for that. He was ready to go right into there. They were dead ducks. One of our 40 millimeters hit him right under the belly. He exploded and fell right in.
My goodness.
About an hour later, something took place that none of the guys that had already been in the Navy and knew Navy rituals and things like that, they did something they've never seen before. About an hour or two later, that ship, that aircraft carrier, they all dressed up, and they're dressed uniforms. They stood at attention, and they circled us like a way of thanks for saving them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was really touching. It was really something.
That's neat. I haven't heard of that.
No, we'd never heard of it before or since then.
So when you went to general quarters and manned your gun, what was your...
No, before, as I just got there, this happened.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
That. But when in general, when you would go to your battle station, what was your job at that location?
I was the gunner.
You were the gunner?
Yeah, I was the gunner.
Did someone load for you?
Yes, they have a magazine. Yeah.
How does that operate? Is it a belt-driven magazine or?
No, it's just magazine. You just take one off and put one on.
Does it fire one at a time or many at a time?
Every fifth. Well, I was at that time on the 20 millimeter gun. Every fifth one was a tracer, so you can see, you can follow. And we loaded our own magazines. But that's pretty much it. But that was very, very touching. And it was at that operation we were awarded, I got the Bronze Star.
Tell us how you came to be awarded the Bronze Star. What sort of
because of our, not that particularly, although we were given a citation for that, but the Bronze Star had to do with the fact we were in that battle. The Bronze Star for the battle there of Okinawa. Yeah.
Did you yourself take other enemy aircraft under fire? When you aimed, did you shoot at Japanese kamikazes?
Yeah, we shoot. I don't know that I hit any. We never know. There was so much going on. You don't know who hit what or if you hit anything or what.
Yes.
So I can't take credit that I shot one down. But one of our boys did. One crew. Yeah, they were right on the ball.
Yeah.
Well, that was a sight to see. When that plane came out of there, I said, oh my God, those guys are dead meat, And sure enough, right under the plane exploded.
How often would you say you had to man your battle station because the enemy was flying overhead? Was it an everyday occurrence?
Oh, no, but quite often.
Quite often. You saw a lot of Japanese planes.
Oh, yeah, up around there, yeah. When we got that close, yeah. Mm-hmm. Up until then, we didn't see that many. Because most of the area that we covered up till then had already been taken and secured.
Yes.
Now, there were a couple of islands that the Marines didn't go in to take the island. I think Truk was one of them, if you ever heard of that island.
Sure.
I think Truk was one where they just circled them and made sure that they got no supplies. They just left them on their own there,
Yes.
Instead of risking our lives, which we didn't have to do, we probably bombed them until they don't have any weapons left. And we just left them there. So a couple of that. But for the most part, where we traveled, up to the time we got to Saipan, it was pretty secure. What we did before we went to Okinawa, we stopped at the Philippines, and that's where we picked up our convoy. It was a big convoy that went up to Okinawa. There was a lot of ships.
What year would this have been?
Well, this was 45.
Okay.
This was already 45, yeah. Mm-hmm. What is it, April? March?
So when you got into that, how big, you said it's a big convoy. How many ships would be in a big convoy?
Several hundred. Hundreds.
Wow.
Hundreds.
Wow.
Well, you've seen I'm not comparing it to D-Day, but you've seen pictures of that.
Sure.
Ships as far as the eye can see.
Yes.
Okay? This was not that big of a, but it was big. It was big. A lot of ships.
Did you witness the Marines going toward the shore?
Yes, we did see that. We saw the landing things go down. We thought, oh my goodness, thank goodness we're here safe on our ship. And the odd thing is that, if you read history, and we didn't see any firing. They let them come in, land. It wasn't like in the beachhead in Normandy in there, because right away they got them before they got in the water even, they shot, They let the men come in. So we didn't see any firing there, but we saw these poor guys landing. They didn't know what they were going to face. But then all hell broke loose after they got certain distance in, you know.
I see.
That was their strategy.
Was there a big pre-invasion bombardment and
Yes.
everything?
Oh, yes.
That must have been
Oh,
something
yes.
to see.
There's always that.
Now, getting back to the fighter planes overhead, did you ever see the American planes go up there and duel with the Japanese
Oh,
planes?
yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
You mentioned the carrier. How well could you see the planes dogfighting? I mean, were they really high up so they just looked like specks, or were they down lower?
Yeah, they were pretty high up. They were pretty high up for the most part, yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I mean, you could see them.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we could see them. Most of the planes we saw on our way up till we got to, well, I say Saipan anyway, were all Americans, you know. They'd already, you know, after the Battle of Midway and all that, I mean, we was, Pacific was pretty much ours
Yes.
till that point. Then after that, we saw a lot of Japanese.
Before you got to Okinawa, between, say, Saipan and Tinian and your time at Okinawa,
Yes.
did they ever let you get off the boat anywhere?
Oh, no.
Yeah, never got off the ship to
No, no.
shore leave or anything like that?
No.
Wow. How
The
long?
only place was on at land, as I say, Quasin. We were on there for a few hours, drink a couple of beers. Or on Macon Island. We got off on Macon Island. And it was the only time I spoke, some natives there, they spoke pidgin English.
Really?
You know, but they're very mad, you know. Japanese mean, beat us, mean.
Wow.
They were very mean.
Yeah.
They were cruel. They were, it's history. I'm not saying
Sure.
anything out of line.
Oh, no.
History.
I thought I saw a picture over there of you in a Navy band. Is that you holding an upright?
No, that's interesting. I was in there. I played the violin. I played there. And if you notice the band, the orchestra, it had the stands.
Yes.
It had Salem on there, the name of our ship.
Yes.
While we were in Pearl Harbor, and they changed us from a minor to a net layer. Also, at the same time, they built a cruiser back in the States, and the cruisers are named after states. And this was our capital. There was anyway. They named it the Salem. Now it was a Salem. Now our Salem, the mine layers were named after Indian tribes.
Oh.
And there's a Salem tribe. They changed it to Shawmut because there's a Salem that's a cruiser. You know, well they're bigger than we are. You know, so they had this big on that name. So they changed it to Shawmut. I guess the Shawmut Indians, I noticed when we were in Boston, there's a bank, a Shawmut Bank in Boston. So probably the tribe was probably in that area, I would assume.
Okay. So when you went to Pearl Harbor, they changed the type of ship. They changed the name of the ship. They sent you to gunnery school.
Yeah.
That was a big stay. That was a lot to do there.
Well, we were there for quite a while.
Oh, okay. What happened to the captain who let that boat drift
That's
into the river?
very, very interesting.
I'd like to hear it.
That's very interesting. When we came back to Pearl Harbor, the captain of the ship, I don't know if I want to mention any name because he comes from a very famous, well-known family. High up, they were rich, they owned a lot of land in Texas, very well-known. He went to Annapolis,
Wow.
and he was high muckety-muck. And when we got to Pearl Harbor, we talked amongst the officers, well, he's in hot water. He's absolutely in hot water. It turns out that the commander who was in charge of the Pearl Harbor at that time was a classmate of his in Annapolis. I'm kind of reluctant to say all this. I don't know what to impugn people. If we'd have gone, we were supposed to go back to the States. We were supposed to go back to the States. If he'd gone to the States, he'd have had to face a board of inquiry. They had it arranged that he stopped at Pearl Harbor on the way. commander of the Pearl Harbor Navy Yard, was a shipmate, a pal of his. And that's where they ended. And not only ended there, but he got a promotion.
Son of a gun.
He was lieutenant commander up to a full commander at that time. We couldn't believe it.
Did he maintain command of that ship, or did they put him on a different ship? He's
remained there.
With the Shawmut now. Huh.
You know, when we were in certain areas where it was safe, we saw movies. Now, during World War II, everything had to do for the morale of the men. Mail, sometimes we didn't get our mail for 3 months, and we knew a certain island we were headed for. They had the mail there for us, and we had lots of mail. And we had movies. That's part of the morale too, as well as the skippers found out some of us played instruments. Told us to form this little band for anything for to help the morale.
Sure.
Something different to break the routine. So, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, when we were in safe areas, we'd have movies at night on top deck. Most of the time, you didn't have any lights. Your lights were out. When you opened the hatch door, light would go on. You had to be careful, otherwise the lights were out. But there were safe areas as well. They'd always pipe him in. He'd be the last. Everybody would be seated, and the officers in front. He would be the last one sitting in the first row, and then in the middle. And the guys, some of these guys would really let him have it. His name was George, his first name. I don't know if I give his last name, I don't know if you'd recognize it or not. But anyway, his well-known name. Should I?
I think you do what you're comfortable with. If you'd rather not, it's all part of history at this point.
But anyway, these guys would say, "Hey, George, what happened there?"
Really?
Yeah, Tinian. They think he was up there. He was a drinker. We knew that. He was a drinker. Oh, he was a drinker. You're not allowed alcoholic beverages on there. We couldn't drink our beer on there, but they had their whiskey.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. There's no question about why he allowed this to happen. He was too good of a seaman. He was a good seaman, but he wasn't on the ball there. Oh, yeah, he would know what to do.
May have had a couple of drinks that night.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, all the other officers knew, we all knew that.
Yes.
The officers were not reluctant to talk about it to the men.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I mean, he risked our lives on the ship. They don't take that lightly. In the Navy, when you have a ship damage, what happened over there in Italy with that ship, that was a cruise ship, but even so, they take that all that seriously. But that's pretty much the story.
So the men were razzing him from
oh yeah, in the dark. He didn't know who it was. And about the twin screws and how that, oh, hey George, about this and that. I don't know how he took it. There's nothing he could do.
Right.
You couldn't find out who did it. So there was a lot of that.
Oh my goodness.
His ears were burning. Yes.
Well, getting back to Okinawa here, a lot of Japanese planes in the air. You guys probably saw a lot of combat.
Yes.
Did you ever actually see a Japanese sailor or soldier alive? Did you take prisoners, or did you capture any who?
Out there, when we came back and hit Hawaii, we saw a prisoner of war camp.
Really?
Saw the Japanese, yeah.
Where was that located?
And Germans. In Hawaii.
On the Big Island?
Yeah, they had some there. Yeah. Not a whole lot. I guess they had them in other islands there, but there were some that they had there. I don't know how they got to Hawaii, but I remember seeing them crouching. I don't know if you've seen. They're like crouched, sitting on their own heels, yeah. So that's the way it would sit. Yeah.
I'll be darned.
And the German prisoners who were there, they were waiters. They were waiters for the Marines that were in there. Yeah, they had a little better. Yeah, there was a difference.
Did you have Marines on board your ship?
Anyone?
Any Marines on your ship?
No.
Every so often you hear about a Marine detachment being on board a naval
We
vessel.
weren't that important. I'm sorry to say. I wish I could say we were this and that and something big. I mean, what we did was interesting. It was all part of it. But our ship in and of itself was not that important in the big picture, although we did something important in Okinawa, you know.
Well, sure.
Yeah, we did. That's true.
So when did you wrap up your tour at Okinawa? Was the battle still going on when you left, or and where did you go from
Yes, yeah, because it lasted a while. Yeah, when we finished our part, we left.
there? Where'd they send you from there?
Okay, good question. They sent us back to Pearl Harbor to get ready for the next stop was Japan.
Really?
Japan. We were at Pearl Harbor when the bomb was dropped on August the 8th, 1945. And that stopped it. And maybe I and a million other service people wouldn't be here
Right.
had not that bomb been dropped, you know.
Right.
I mean, it killed, unfortunately, all these people and named this. But that won the war for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to do it a second time before they would give. They figured that if we invaded there, there'd have been 1 million casualties. I mean, it's dead and wounded, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a lot. Yes.
That's what they estimated. Because they would have fought tooth and nail to the very end, you know.
Oh, well, you saw what they did on Iwo Jima, and even in Saipan with the
Iwo Jima
caves.
was something.
Iwo
Yeah.
Jima, your ship never made it up there?
No, we didn't. I told you there were 3 ships exactly like ours.
Yes.
The Salem, the Weehawken, and I can't think of the other one now. Anyway, but one of them went there and did take a Japanese hit.
Really?
Yes, we got the story back from them that I don't know why they picked them. They were the same as we were, you know, but they took a kamikaze.
Son of a gun.
And the story was that the pilot of the kamikaze was laying over something, one of the things, machinery, something. And one of the guys was so intense, he took a knife and kept stabbing him, you know.
Wow. Wow.
It's hard to imagine some emotions that, as far as.
Well, I know we don't have that much time left. I wanted to ask you something I should have asked you a long time ago when you talked about the duty of the Salem to you roll these mines off. How do the mines operate? And you know, once you drop them in the water, what makes them explode?
If they're hit by a ship.
The ship has to actually run into it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
And about how big is a mine?
That big around.
Okay.
When you first get on there and there's all these mines, you think, "Oh my goodness, it's scary," but they're not dangerous until they're whatever they do to them just before they're rolled off. Then whatever, I forget the word you call that, they activate it, you know.
Okay.
So of course we mine our own because we know where they're at.
How do you keep track of them?
Huh?
How do you keep track of them? Don't they just float around?
No, they're buoyed. Now, once in a while, it's a good question, because once in a while they would get loose, and you see in the newspaper, to warn fishermen that there was a loose mine in this area down, you know, maybe some miles down. They'd be fishing, you know, off the Atlantic, in the Atlantic, and to be careful of a loose mine. But for the most part, there were buoys, or there were stations, and that's how we knew where they were, you know. And when one of our ships come in, we would have one of our pilots take the ship in, because they know, you know, the path to take.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So there must be fingers that stick out on it. So when a ship runs into it, it explodes, or is it just a big ball that?
Just under the water. They didn't know where it was. It was just under the water.
I see.
Yeah, were the buoys seen or not? I don't remember. You know, I don't remember. But the mines went in the water.
And
Otherwise, they would steer clear of it.
How many could you carry on board?
Oh, I would say, I never had a count. I'm trying to picture, because there were 4 rows of tracks. I imagine it'd be close to 200, if not 200.
Wow.
That's a lot of area, but it was a big, wide-bottom boat. Now, to carry these railroad cars, you can imagine,
Yes.
Yeah.
Was it made out of metal, the boat? The hull? Was it a metal hull?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They had it, you know how they used to paint it? So it'd be camouflaged, you've seen these things. I wish I'd have brought a picture of the boat.
I saw one online. It had sort of diagonal paint stripes on it. It looked neat.
Right.
Okay, well, I interrupted you. So you went back to Pearl Harbor. The war was declared over. What kind of celebration did you
Now,
have?
that's interesting. That's another story. We're ready to go out. To go home. They discharged millions of people in a short space of time. But they had a decree, something came down from Washington that pertained to the Army and the Navy, that if you have certain duties, they can freeze you for 90 days. And I had that because, if you remember, I told you earlier that I kept the records of they have Title B, Title A, different kind of all the equipment. It had to be accounted for. So I was one of them. Was for 90 days I was, So when my buddies went home in August, I had to stay till December the 12th. I got discharged. So knowing I was going to be there 90 days, my wife came out with my daughter. Now she was 3 years old.
Where did you spend that 90 days?
Well, we were in Frisco, in San Francisco, Mare Island.
Oh, okay.
But they took the boat up to 90 miles up the coast. I can't think of the name. It starts with an S. Anyway, there was a ship, something there, some kind of ship installation. And in other words, they didn't want us to take up important space in Pearl Harbor because a lot of other important boats coming in there. Went up to, it's on the tip of my tongue, but anyway, so I was 90 miles up. So we, before they transferred the boat up there, my family came out, my daughter, my wife and daughter, got an apartment there. Right across from San Francisco I'm sorry, 94 years old, you lose a lot of words here, Anyway, it's a city you would recognize the name. So I had him there. And there again, it was the same routine as we had in Toledo. Every Wednesday and weekend, I would get off. And there was one fellow there who had a car, was able to drive down. Because otherwise, I don't know what I'd do to get some kind of public transportation. So I was able to see him then,
Oh, that's great.
But it was, while I was there, I was the only guy, even when they brought a new skipper and knew everybody, they'd come to me for questions because I was the only guy there. I was the only one that was there before.
Wow.
They had a new crew, a whole, first lieutenant, a whole skipper, a whole whatever, Wasn't a big crew, So anyway, so I got that frozen. So they came out, and then was in that like train, and I'll never forget waiting there for the train. There were other service people there waiting for their families. Some had babies and little children too. And invariably, these children wouldn't know their dads or recognize them, or hadn't seen them at all, or had seen them, they forgot them, and they didn't shrug. They didn't. It's just so easy, and I thought, oh, gee, that's a heck of a way to be treated.
Yes.
By golly, my daughter was 3 years old. My wife kept showing her pictures of me. When we were in Pearl Harbor, we took pictures, so we sent them some current pictures. And she knew her daddy in the uniform. When she saw me, she ran up to me and she jumped in my arms and said, Daddy, I'm going to kiss you and hug you. I'm going to eat you up.
Wow.
And that was the greatest homecoming a man could have.
No question about it.
That was a wonderful feeling, yeah.
That's amazing. Good for you.
Yep.
Well, so after your 90 days there, were you discharged from the Navy? Oh, you took a train home.
Oh, yeah.
Right back here?
Back to Cincinnati. My wife wanted to stay there.
Oh, she liked it.
Oh, we did stay there for a while. We had a relative there and a friend, former neighbor, a friend who lived out there, and they wined us and down, took care of us and treated us nice. As everybody treated service people so wonderful then, as we should today. And remember one time, my former neighbor, who I mentioned, took me. The boxing matches were very popular then, and they had every Wednesday night. They had boxing matches in one of the Hollywood places. They took me one night, and Henry Armstrong, I don't know if you ever heard of him, he was a well-known boxer. That night he was there. So sitting right in front of me, who was sitting right in front of me? Al Jolson.
How about that?
Al Jolson had, as other entertainers did, was in the Pacific, and he got sick out there. And the nurse that helped him, he eventually married, and she was sitting there with him, and he had his arm around her, all the time. And I remember he turned around and said, "Hey, sailor," he said, 2 years ago or whatever, I couldn't do this, or just to make small talk. I still remember that.
Oh, that's neat.
In the whole scheme of things, that's very unimportant. But but we stayed there for a while. My wife wanted to stay there. No, I wanted to get back home.
Did the train take you right back to Union Terminal?
Union Terminal. Oh yes.
Wonderful.
That's where we left when we went to the Navy. From Union Terminal up to Greenberg, up to Chicago. Yeah.
I've seen the pictures. That must have been some time at Union Terminal. All those servicemen in and out of there.
As many as 35,000 people went transferred through there a day.
Wow.
As many as well, I don't know if you know, behind that complex theater, I don't know if you've seen pictures. It runs a long way. There were trains, gates on either side, many of them.
Wow.
There are 33 miles of track there.
The
reason I know that, I was, for a while here, I was a tour guide for the city.
Oh.
So I know a lot of little things like that, This was a big, important station here for trains. Yeah.
Apparently so. So when you got out of the Navy, what did you do as we wind down here? What did you do for your career and so forth?
I was in the furniture business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little retail store. Today, there's no such thing. There's nothing small anymore. I was small. The small ones are out. The small groceries are out, So small hardware for the most, well, not so much, but, everything is big. But I made a living.
You've lived here your whole life then?
Oh, yeah.
Raised your family here. Did you have any more children?
I have two daughters. One lives here and one lives in Cleveland, and 3 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren.
Wonderful. Well, as this winds down, is there anything we've forgotten or anything else you'd like to say during your time here?
No, an hour from now I might think of something, but no. No, I think I covered pretty much what you might like to hear.
Sure. I thought it was a great interview. I enjoyed the stories, and I thank you for your service.
Thank you for allowing me to do this.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Very much.